Hello, all, and welcome to the Movie Bears podcast. I'm Brad Harris, and each week I'm joined by Hunky Harry, Huggable Husky, something else, homos who love movies, who love TV, who love everything, film, TV, bear, whatever. We're just guys who like to chat about stuff. Welcome, Jim Poliafico is here as normal. Hello, Jim.
Hi. Welcome to the podcast, everyone.
And we've got Will Lindis here as well. Welcome, Will.
Hey there, movie fans. Glad to have you back with us.
And we've also got a special guest this week. He is the CEO of Daddyhunt. You may be familiar with the site or the app, or if not, guess what? Now's your chance to get familiar. And he's also the co-writer and producer of their new web series, Daddyhunt the Serial. Carl Sandler, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brad. I'm really glad to be here, guys, and to chat. It's really actually so much has happened since in the past week with those videos, and we've gotten a lot of attention from great guys like you. So we're happy to talk.
Awesome. Well, we are so glad to have you here. We got notice of the videos that were going up, and we were checking them out, and we were like, this is kind of awesome. We got to talk to these guys. So, for those of our listeners who are not yet familiar, Carl, can you tell us a little bit about what Daddyhunt is and kind of what this web series is all about?
Sure. Well, just for some context, so Daddyhunt.com, the website's been around since about 2006, and we started it, back in the web world, really because we found that it was really hard for especially older and younger guys to meet up on other more mainstream sites. Like, you didn't know who was into older guys, who wasn't. We also found that there was just a lot of haters back in the manhunt world, where people just were just not really very accepting. I think maybe things are a little bit different now, but so we really created Daddyhunt kind of to meet a need that we saw in the marketplace at the time, and it really grew pretty organically on its own. And there was a lot of really goodwill and lots of people who really made it their community, and we never got to the scale of some of the hookup apps. So it really had a big community feel. We made a big effort to do a lot of things to try to make people feel supported and welcome, and really a place where older guys are hotter guys, and other people who didn't fit into older guys also felt like, wow, it was lower pressure, it was better. And then a couple of years ago, about a year or two ago, we decided to develop the Daddyhunt app specifically because, again, same kind of story we kept hearing, that people wanted to have a place that was safe for them, that wasn't just about sex, that was a little bit more romantic, about dating, because even though, of course, guys are interested in the hookup, the reality is a lot of guys are interested in connections, and they're interested in making quality relationships, and a lot of other places don't allow for that to happen. So we started the Daddyhunt app, and that's been going really well, but we basically came around to deciding, like, hey, we need to step up our game, we need to raise the stakes. What can we do to take it to the next level? And that's where the series came from.
Yeah, the idea for the series is fascinating to me. I do digital marketing during the day, and the idea of doing this as like a marketing tool is especially brilliant because, to me, marketing is all based on like emotion, right? And when watching these videos, I noticed that you really play into the emotional element of the app as opposed to just like the hookup element or what have you. So, can you talk a little bit about how you came up with the idea of the web series? Like, what sparked that brilliant idea?
So we had developed about a year and a half ago a series of videos that were really more like commercials that talked about the daddy. They were just, they're very funny, and they're short, but they did really well, much better than we even anticipated. People really enjoyed seeing themselves in the video. A lot of younger people liked the whole idea. It was just became very fun. And as you said, Will, these days creating a story and having an emotional pull is really the key to content marketing. And so I'm actually in Australia now, and I was here last year with Ray Sala, who's the director and the co-writer with me. And Ray is amazing. And he and I started getting together, and we started thinking about what kind of content could we create that was short form, that would tell a story about older and younger guys, but that would normalize it in a way that it wouldn't be, creepy. It wouldn't be about sex. It would just be about this, emotional pull of what a daddy has to offer, or that sexual attraction that happens all the time between older and younger guys, but that for some reason just gets depicted as either some porno scene or some cliche. And so we said, what can we do that's just really speaking to what we think is a very broad appeal of a hot older guy. And we started kind of developing the series in a way that we said, we really designed it. Okay, we want each episode to have a hook. We want it to bring people along, and we don't want it to be predictable. And that's really where we started working. We spent probably 2 or 3 months working on the script. Ray Sala, though, I have to say, he was really pushing for the romance. He was like, people want romance. A couple times I was like, I don't know, is that too romantic? He was like, no, trust me, people want romance, and he was completely right.
Yeah, so this is a daddy-focused site. I thought it was a plumbing fetish site. I mean, that's what kind of... No, I'm kidding. I really resonate with what you say about how, your website and now your app is kind of focused on, came out of the fact that, sometimes the older guys and the younger guys don't really fit in the kind of the mainstream, Adam for Adam, Manhunt, whatever. And so you have these other, thank God we have these other sites, like, we have, sites for bigger guys and sites for older guys, and I think that's awesome. And so my question, though, was how did it, I love the fact that these are really short and digestible episodes, and not something I got to invest, 20 minutes into to watch. How did that idea come about? Like, what are you guys in marketing, and you know these kind of things, or what?
So, I mean, I am a marketing guy. I say at my core, I'm not a technology person. So definitely, my background is in marketing. But I don't remember the exact, exactly what came first or how it was done. But I remember that Ray said to me when we were here back in Sydney last year. He said, "Hey, have you ever seen these Nescafe Gold coffee ads? I don't know if you remember them from the early 90s. And they basically told a story, and it's I can't remember his name, the actor from Buffy. And he and this woman, they have this kind of cheesy, ongoing kind of relationship through the video ads over the course of several years, and people really looked forward to them. People were waiting to see what happened next, and it was over several years' time. And we used that as the model for how we wanted the story to progress, little by little, one at a time. And we weren't quite sure whether we were going to release them one at a time or all together. We depended on how it all came out. And so that really was the impetus for how we developed the series. And we spent a lot of time in that very short, they're all between 1 and 2 minutes long, really making sure that every element was there that we felt needed to be there to move the story forward and then hook people from one episode to the next.
Yeah, it works great. I love it. I watched through it twice, and now I'm ready for
great.
I know that's all you watch them all together because you want to see kind of how it resolves. We never did get up to the roof, did we? I don't remember if we did.
No spoilers, Jim.
Oh shit! All right. But yeah, I can't wait to see what you guys do next. If you do another one, we'll talk about that.
Do you want a cameo, Jim? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I don't know about that. If you think that I'll fit, let me know. But especially if it involves a trip to Australia.
Now we're talking.
Well, it's such a resonant story. I mean, for me, like I've always been attracted to older guys. I mean, Jim is actually my partner, Carl, and we've got about
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've got about a 20-year
Wow.
age difference between us, and for me, I've always liked older guys just because sometimes they have their shit together a little more, and I'm a little old for my age. Sometimes the guys in my age group aren't always the most mature, so I love the idea of a site like Daddyhunt, and especially this web series, right, that kind of highlights that. I think this is such a great story that a lot of people really resonate with. Speaking of more, is there more coming, or is this kind of it for now, or are there plans to expand?
So we are actually talking about it now. I mean, we didn't know when we first made them that they would be so successful. I mean, obviously we wanted them to be a marketing tool, but we really underestimated the response would be so good. I mean, we've had over 1 million downloads in the week, but thousands and thousands of shares and comments, and almost all of them are amazingly positive. And so for some reason, we really hit on something that people wanted to see, that they wanted to see romance. They wanted to see something that validated who they were. And I think that's a lot of the challenge with older depictions of older guys is that, I mean, sure, Jim, the guy who plays the older daddy, is a sexy daddy, but we didn't want to make it cheesy. We really wanted to make it just a normalized, hey, here's two guys, you could totally see them coming together. And yes, they have a very large age difference, right, between them. And it's just a normal part of the way our world works. It doesn't have to be something so scary. And I feel like a lot of people have a lot of embarrassment and shame sometimes around the fact that they like older guys, or people make all sorts of assumptions and they think that, oh, if you're younger, you're a gold digger, or if you're, older, you're chasing youth. And it's not the case. There's amazing connections that can be made in the gay community across people of many different sizes. And in fact, our difference in some ways is what keeps us together and keeps it fresh, is that we're so different and we have different perspectives to add. So I think that, we would love to do another series. They're very expensive to do, so we just have to figure out how to pull them together for next time. So we're working on figuring that out. But I would love to personally.
Yeah, one other thing I want to interject is that, when you're talking about this kind of stuff, especially when we talk to like our straight friends, and
right.
they sometimes don't know about. I mean, the way they think of the gay world is totally different than us, in the know that live it, right?
Sure.
So they don't really know about, there's guys that actually like big guys, and there's guys that actually like older guys, and not your stereotypical median sample gay dude, right? So I just think it's interesting. I hope we have some of our straight listeners listening in and getting a bit of an education here too.
I'm sure we do.
On Daddyhunt, I'm 44, and sometimes on Daddyhunt, I'll see someone that I think is really cute, and I'll hit them up, and I'll be like, dude, I'm sorry, you're just not old enough for me. And he might be 25, 24, and he just says, no, I'm really looking for someone who's older. And there's also a lot of people.
I'm 56, so send them my way.
Send them your way. Absolutely. We also have a fair number of people who are just older, looking for older, or they just don't like the kind of hookup focus on some of the other apps, and they really just say, Daddyhunt's kind of a place where I can go and I feel comfortable and I can chat with someone and not feel like they're just looking for a quick route, as we say here in Sydney. That they're looking for something a little bit more meaningful. And so we really wanted also the videos to capture that aspect of Daddyhunt, because everyone immediately goes to some porn sex fantasy. And while I can be that porn sex fantasy for you, not everyone is looking for that.
Right.
I think you hit on earlier the fact that this has been resonating with so many people, and part of the reason why, I think, is just how good these videos were. I mean, when we were talking about this beforehand, like, the idea on paper sounds kind of crazy, right? Like a gay social app coming up with its own like web series, but it works really, really well. I think the story worked really well, the script worked really well, and the actors worked really well. So I guess my next question really has to do with that. Like, how did you get all of those elements together? Like, how did you find, the right actors, the right story, just all of those elements to pull together here?
Well, definitely. So Ray Sala, who's the co-writer director, he really, I'd say, was probably the driving force behind the quality of everything related to the production, and I relied on him. I mean, he and I wrote them together, so I'm a fairly strong writer, so it's something I'm comfortable with, but I don't have a lot of experience with production. And so he drove, we had casting calls and backstage back in New York. We made a decision early on that we were going to wait to find the right people, and it took us months, actually, to find good actors who were willing to do this project, who also fit our kind of our goals. And Ray really worked with the actors. We had 1 day of rehearsal and 1 day of shooting for the entire series, and then he put in a tremendous amount of time to edit them, and we edited them together, so that was a big part. But he really wanted to create something that was very high quality, and we also did as well, because we needed it to reflect the brand. Because Daddyhunt, everything we try to do with Daddyhunt, we really want to make sure it's good quality. And if it had come out not good, we wouldn't have released it probably. Because for us, we know that people are looking at that as a reflection of the kind of experience that they're going to have when they're in the app, and we really wanted it to be, hey, I want to see the app, I want to become aware of Daddyhunt, and I can tell my friends, or I can download it myself. And we've had, I mean, Daddyhunt itself has a good built-in community, but in the past 2 weeks, our downloads have skyrocketed, and it's been amazing to see that people are coming on and they're checking it out and they're saying, hey, what's here? Is there something here for me? And hopefully there is.
Oh, and I think evidence of that is just, typically when you think of like YouTube comments, right? It's like a troll breeding ground sometimes. I mean, YouTube is famous for that. But I spent some time yesterday just reading through all the different comments, and I'm reading people who are finding this younger, older thing for the first time, and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea this existed. This is amazing. And I'm thinking back to when I first found out about the bear community and the Chub community, right? And I think it's so amazing that your site and this series can have that impact on people. I mean, that's phenomenal. So for anyone who might be listening now, can you maybe just kind of tell us, where can they find the website? Where can they find the app? How can they digest the series? Where should they go?
Sure, absolutely. So there's a couple different places. I mean, if you're on the with your phone, mobile, or tablet, you can go to either the Apple Store or the Google Play Store and download the Daddyhunt app, and that's probably the easiest way. If you're on the web, you can go to daddyhunt.com. It's all one word, and then we have a website, daddyhuntapp.com, where you can actually see the full series, or on our Facebook page, just search for Daddyhunt and you can see the series there as well. So we have it in lots of different places, and when you go to the app, it's free to join, it's free to download, and you create a profile. We also have, one of the things that's interesting about Daddyhunt is we found that because a lot of people aren't just looking for a hookup, we actually added in all the kind of Instagram-like features. So people can upload, you can create a profile, you can upload photos that aren't just your profile pics. People like and comment and follow the photos, and they follow you. So you can be a daddy with tons of followers, or a hunt. We call them a hunter, the younger guys. You can have tons of followers. And so it's we really are trying to create it to be more of a social network / true community. So it's not just one-to-one, like unlock your pics. Here's a picture of my cock again. It has all the other kind of features associated with it that I think people want, because I think Instagram is not really friendly to daddies, unless you've got six-pack abs, that's not really the place for you. But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have lots of fans on Daddyhunt, and you can show your stuff off, and that's the beauty of the internet in general, is that there is someone for everyone. Like there's so many people. There is some, you might have, whatever that thing is about you that you think, oh, no one's going to like this. The reality is that there are people everywhere who like exactly what you're giving.
And it's got to be amazing. It's got to be amazing when you hear that feedback from people like, oh, I didn't even know there was a community for people like me that, are older, and there are younger guys that actually like me or are into me. We hear the same thing with other communities that we're in, like, oh, all these years I thought, I was on Adam for Adam, and I don't want to disparage other sites, but more of the mainstream sites that say, I just could never really find much there for me, or were interested in me, and now there's a place, and that's cool.
I didn't know there were other people like me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I mean, the other thing we do on Daddyhunt is we really try, when people join, we ask them to sign a Daddyhunt code, and it's in a sense, it's a code that basically says, I'm not going to be a douchebag if I'm going to be here. And
Good
if
code.
you are, then we kick them. I mean, it's a little bit more written a little bit more delicately.
Yeah.
But it basically says I'm going to treat other people with respect, and we just don't, because we realized we wanted to create a safe environment, and all it takes is one or two, really nasty people to kind of give you a sense that, hey, I don't want to be here, or this community is not great. And that's not to say that everyone here is, the most amazing person in the world, but we do our best to try to encourage people to say, you know what? If you want to just kind of play around and fuck around, go somewhere else, and this is a place just for daddies, people who like daddies, and try to be as accepting and open as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because I think as a gay, as a gay community, we like to think of ourselves as this open and accepting community, and sometimes the truth of the matter is we find cases where that's not always the case, and so it's nice to see. An app or a social community where that is fostered. So I think that's great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, as I said, we try our best. We do what we can.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Carl, I got to say it's been an absolute delight talking with you. We have a lot of listeners, I'm sure, who hopefully will fire up their web browsers or the App Store or the Google Play and download the app and check it out. I actually logged in, downloaded the app, signed up yesterday, in fact.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I was on the site a long time ago, and then I found Jim and kind of got away from that world a little bit. But I was like, man, I totally want to check this out. And like 2 seconds after signing in, I've got like 3 people messaging me. Like my profile picture just got approved, and like, bam. And I'm like,
well, we allow couples profiles too. That's okay.
Oh,
Just
well,
saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
there you go.
And I will,
and
of course, if you shoot me your username, I'll upgrade you for free. I have something else to mention, which is that we have some, even though it's going to take us some time to develop the second series, we actually have some content about to come out related to the actors, and I know that both of them have a lot of fans. And we also have a campaign on Facebook. If you join our Facebook Daddyhunt campaign, to ask Pup to ask the younger guy some questions, which he's going to answer. And we have some video content literally coming out in the next couple of days, in the next week or so. So if you join our Facebook page, Daddyhunt on Facebook, you'll be able to see some bonus content coming out soon.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, listeners, make sure when you go to that page, make sure to like the page so that you get all of those awesome updates.
of course, we don't know the actors, but those characters seem like guys you instantly like. The pilot spot, you instantly are like, oh, these are cool guys. These are guys you want as friends, right?
They actually are really great guys, and everyone on the shoot was amazingly friendly and wonderful. And it was just like kind of a little bit of a dream team of people that came together. They did it just because they liked the project and they thought it was interesting. And it's actually I'm very lucky and very grateful that everyone who participated really gave it their all and really worked hard, and really very grateful.
That's amazing. I think we definitely think you've got something special going on, both with the series, which is excellent, but both with the site as well. So thank you so much for coming on, listeners.
Thanks for including me.
Yeah, anytime, for sure. And maybe we'll have you back sometime if you get some new episodes coming out. We'd love to talk with you again. So.
All right, great.
Yes.
All right. Thanks,
all right,
Carl.
Thanks for being fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good talking to
Bye.
you, Carl. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so much fun.
Oh, that was great.
Was
he
awesome.
seems like a lot of fun, and I love hearing about sort of the genesis of these different projects, right? Like, it's one thing to just kind of watch and digest, right, at face value, but it's another when you can kind of dig into it a little bit and find out some of the behind the scenes.
Well, that's what I mean. It's nice to see, like, you see these websites and these apps, and sometimes they lead you to believe that they're just run by robots or teams of people, and it's tucked away on a computer, a bunch of computers somewhere. But when you see a guy like Carl is a nice guy and comes across well and just, I mean, it just kind of reaffirms gives you a reassurance that, hey, these are run by people, real guys who care about their members, and so I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's the personality of their business, which kind of permeates the videos and everything that we talked about here, that really excited me. My last relationship was with someone who was 12 years older than me, and I was a young kid when I started that relationship, right out of high school. And I remember early on I was qualifying that relationship a lot. Well, it's 12 years difference, but the reason for that is.
Right.
And really, I did not need to qualify that. Like, it's great that there's a community where people can feel comfortable with these types of things. That difference or more is just like, that's what I like. And so that's so exciting to me.
Well, and it's interesting too, and I know we have a movie to talk about as well, so we'll get there. But it's kind of like, Jim and I do have an age gap, and sometimes when we go out, people be like, "Oh, are you guys like father and son? Is this your brother? Is he your uncle?" You know what I mean? Like, when you're in the world, you kind of forget about that external sort of viewpoint, right? And I think what's interesting is that even in the gay community, people don't necessarily know that this exists, that this is a thing. So I think this web series is an awesome way to highlight that. And yeah, so good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Well, speaking of movies to review, we are going to be talking Hail Caesar, the new Cohen Brothers film starring George Clooney, Channing Tatum, Tilda Swinton. Who am I missing? Like everyone on the face of the planet.
Everyone.
Josh Brolin. Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many people. Scarlett Johansson. Yeah, tons of people.
Another big ensemble cast.
Right. Mm-hmm. So what we'll do is, for those of you who may be unfamiliar with our format, we are going to give some quick spoiler-free advice after we play the trailer for you on whether we think the film is worth checking out. Not that our opinion should be your opinion, because absolutely you make up your own minds, people. But if you're looking for some thoughts, we're happy to give what we think at least. Mm-hmm. And then we'll give fair warning. Warning.
That's a word. Let's call it.
Fair warning before we go to Spoiler Town. So, without further ado, here we go. Our discussion of Hail Caesar. All right, so Jim, why don't you give us a little bit of the setup for this movie and whether you think this is worth seeing in theaters, whether people should rent it or skip it entirely?
Sure. So, Hail Caesar is the latest from writing-directing duo Joel and Ethan Cohen, commonly known to us as the Cohen Brothers, right? Many films in their filmography. This one is set during Hollywood's golden age of big studio movies, and among several other things is a story about, mainly about a slick studio boss, or what's called a fixer, or was called a fixer, who is pressed into action to resolve a crisis while at the same time staying on top of several movie productions and keeping his stars and filmmakers in line, as well as dealing with a kind of a crisis of his own. So, and that's basically the setup for this movie without spoiling too much of anything that's not already in the trailer. This one's categorized as a comedy. Although for me, it was kind of tough to pin down, and certainly there were some, definitely some comedy elements in here, and the movie had some surprises. But I saw it. I did see it as kind of a comedy, but kind of as a screwball comedy, not as more like irreverent humor than outright jokey humor. Like it wasn't even really as humorous, I don't think, maybe as something like their movie Raising Arizona from several years ago, which was more slapsticky. This one had some of that, but that one was much more over the top when it comes to the comedy. And so, I mean, regardless of how the synopsis sounds, there are lots of pieces to this movie. I described about the studio boss and all that stuff. And because there's lots of pieces, this one it seems a little bit messy and uneven, which I think it was. And maybe all the pieces don't fit together perfectly all the time, even after kind of thinking back on it. And we'll discuss a lot of those pieces in the spoilers, right? I'm sure. But as messy as it was and uneven as it was, and maybe a little bit different than some of the Coen Brothers movies of late, I think some of the pieces worked well enough to make this a fairly entertaining movie. It's I think people who go into this looking for a movie that's heavy on plot might be a little bit disappointed, because I think this is more of a kind of a tone movie or a thematic movie more than anything. But again, enough to make the movie work. Josh Brolin, as we said, is in this movie. He plays Eddie Mannix, the studio head that we talked about. As a studio boss or fixer, he's very likable, and he's earnest, and he's a straight shooter, and he wants the best, and he's kind of the calm in the middle of this circus that's going on around him. And I really identified with his character, the earnestness and love for what he does. In a strange way, we like him because he obviously cares, and he And kind of in the same way we care for movies and love movies, we see that in him kind of holding the whole studio together. And so we kind of root for him in a way. And I think that was pretty smart on the movie's part. I will just say overall, I guess for me, and there's a lot more to talk about in spoilers, this is a mild and cautious recommend to me, because while I did like this movie, I know it's not going to appeal to everybody. And this is kind of one of those movies, if you're really into the Cohen Brothers, you're going to see this anyway. But if you're a moviegoer who's looking for, something with a strong plot, a whodunit, blah, 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 like that, I would say you may not get what you want out of this movie. Loved a lot of the cast. I thought some of the cast was not really wasted, but maybe more cameo, and some of the characters set up with these actors, I thought their stories didn't always go to places that kind of were satisfying for me. So, and we'll talk about those again in spoilers. So again, I'm cautious and mild recommend for me, as much as I like this movie. Can't say it's for everyone, but it's definitely, I think, a worthy movie, especially for this early in the year in February. I think it's a pretty good movie to go see.
Nice. All right. So, Will, what about you? Why don't you weigh in? Are you in line with Jim, or is there maybe a difference of opinion?
What Jim said.
Oh my God, Will, I love you.
I need a T-shirt that says hashtag what Jim said.
It's not one of those like really, Jim? What the hell?
No. Like it was one of those things where it was just like, yeah, I think Jim and I are pretty well in line on this one. So I'm a Cohen Brothers fan. I think a lot of people are Cohen Brothers fans. They're fine filmmakers. This is their 17th feature over 30 years. So you can't have that type of career without being a quality filmmaker. I love that they do all of these different genres and styles while having the same kind of focus and through lines, and even sometimes themes that kind of tie all their films together. It's really creative and interesting, the catalog that they've built. What works really well about this one are a few things. I think the actors are really, really well directed here. I think everyone that steps in front of the screen at some point or another turns in a really, really solid performance, and you don't get that by being a bad director. You do not get that at all without really knowing your actors and knowing how to work them into your script comfortably. Everybody is top-notch here. Josh Brolin is one of those guys who, honestly, for me, is very hit or miss. And he is very hit here as the anchor of this storyline. He really has to be, like you said, the calm at the middle of this storm that is like classic Hollywood, and he does that so well, so convincingly. As he has his own struggles, his own. It's not spoilery. It's the first scene. There's a lot of morality that really plays into this character, and kind of his struggle with that, and I love that and how they portray that. I also loved what's his name? Alden Ehrenreich, who plays this kid named Hobie, who's this naive Hollywood up-and-comer, does like westerns and stuff like that. And I thought he was really compelling. This film has a lot of these big Hollywood send-ups. Like there's a song and dance number. There's an homage to the MGM film $1 Million Mermaid. There's the spectacle that is Hail Caesar itself, which is the film within this film. All of those things work really, really well. I've got nothing but praise to say for all of these things, except for the connective tissue stringing all of these scenes together. Every single scene in this movie I think is brilliant, but the entirety of it, the story that they're trying to tell, didn't quite connect with me. I feel like maybe something got left on the cutting room floor. There are some characters, like Jim mentioned, who just have these storylines that go absolutely nowhere, or that just kind of disappear at some point, and it's off-putting. So this is a light recommend for me. I think if you like the Coen Brothers, you're going to find things that you like here. This is a very well-directed, very well-acted, very well put-together film that just has a few narrative issues that hold it back. So it's a light recommend. It's not going to set the world on fire. It is not very high up on my list. If I were to rank the Coen Brothers movies for myself, it's not super high up for me. But plus, everyone else on the internet has already ranked the Coen Brothers.
which I don't want to do.
I don't need. But without actually putting a number next to it, it's not towards the top of my list. It falls a little flat in some areas. So go see it if you're interested. But yeah, that's about all I've got.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know. Maybe this is going to be one of those boring shows where we're like all totally in line. Yeah, you know, for me, one thing I will say is typically with these Coen Brothers films, I'm not like a huge super fan of them. Quirky filmmaking style often doesn't play well with me. I'm looking directly at you, Wes Anderson. So sometimes some of the things that these films do don't always resonate very well. But I will say, as Coen Brothers films go, I actually like this one more than I thought I probably would. You know, seeing the trailer before going into this movie, I'm kind of like, here we go again. This is what it's going to be. And definitely you still get some of that. But I think, you know, there's a lot of actors in here that I adore. You know, people make fun of me for liking George Clooney as much as I do. That's okay. Make fun of me all you want. Speaking of Daddyhunt, I think he's a super hot daddy. And I think I think he has this sort of genuine warmth, charm, charisma, whatever you want to call it, just kind of sucks you in, just kind of pulls you right in. And I found him very engaging in this role. Love me some ScarJo, wonderful. Well, she hates being called that, I guess. Love me some Scarlett Johansson. Was glad to see her in this role, even though it was kind of a small one. I thought it was fun and definitely a harken back to some of those old, like, you know, swim films. You know, I love those.
Yeah.
Esther Williams-esque sequences. I gotta say the real standout for me was Channing Tatum and all of his semen.
Yep.
Was just drenched in semen.
I was waiting for a semen joke. Well, I don't want to spoil it yet. We'll talk about it later.
Definitely lots and lots of semen all over that bar.
Oh god! Hey, we've earned our rating. We've earned our explicit rating.
That might be enough to drive some of our listeners to the movie right off the bat.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like Channing Tatum, semen. Screw the Movie Bears podcast. I'm hitting stop and I'm going to the movies. And you know what? Do it, because I think this one is worth checking out. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's got some interesting things going on. The Josh Brolin stuff, man, I love that guy. He is also a hot daddy, by the way. Way more engaging than what was that movie, Jim? Labor Day with Kate Winslet.
Yeah, I love Josh Brolin, but that was not a good. I mean,
that was
nothing to rank on his performance, and it just wasn't a good movie.
Yeah.
But I'm a big Josh Brolin fan, and this movie really, I was loving seeing him kind of out front and his storyline, his character storyline, kind of being the emotional heart of this movie. So that was really good to see.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's lots here to enjoy, but it definitely suffers from some of the Cohenisms, if you will. And if you like that, I mean, I'm sure you'll be overjoyed. For me, I was kind of like, all right, we've got this like stylistic thing going on. I'm just gonna like eat some Raisinets and wait for it to be over. But overall, I definitely think this one is a good checkout. I think this would be kind of a fun date movie if you're looking for something to do on Valentine's Day. Not that this has like a huge romance throughput plotline or anything, but I think it's just fun. It's a good film to maybe go check out. So that's my thoughts. I don't think we need to say much more non-spoilers, do we?
Yeah, you said the date thing. I think what's worked so well about this is it's very the humor in the there's a lot of laughs to be had in this movie. I found myself laughing out loud quite a bit, not just doing that thing where like, oh, it's funny and chuckling.
Yeah.
There were some moments that just had me, the equivalent of rolling. And I think that's what would make this a good date movie, or a good get the friends together and go out and see a movie, because the laughs are, I think, pretty accessible. It's not. A lot of comedies are really based on misfortune, and that's there's good comedy is based on suffering. That's a theme of comedy. But I think what works so well here is that I don't feel like it would be off-putting to the average person. The humor here is very accessible.
Yeah, and I think people who are going to like this movie are fans of the Cohen Brothers, obviously. Maybe big fans of some of these big name actors that are in here, but also like hardcore cinephiles who have a deep history of like seeing movies, especially from that golden era of Hollywood, that this movie kind of embraces. Kind of that studio era where like we mentioned, they have those Busby Berkeley synchronized swimming style movies and old westerns and ancient Roman epics, and I mean it had all that in there, and it was really a pleasure to watch that and kind of like to see how in the movie they depicted it's definitely a time gone by when these studios controlled their movies to the degree that is shown in this movie. And I loved seeing that. I mean, it's kind of like, a chunk of history brought into the future, and I really enjoyed seeing that. There was many times in this movie I had a big smile on my face, other than the semen. But.
Oh God. Oh God, we've really landed ourselves in a sticky situation with this one.
Oh goodness, goodness. Oh my gosh, guys!
It was the climax of the movie for me, basically.
Definitely. The semen climax was like the pinnacle of awesomeness.
I feel like we're sorely misrepresenting this film to like, but I feel like someone is buying a ticket and then complaining on our Facebook page like this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah, probably.
but
hey guys,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Jim. No, you go ahead.
I'll go back to it.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No. Yeah, that part of the movie like made me like 2 minutes in. I'm like, shit, we need this movie to be made. Like, we absolutely need this movie with the Channing Tatum character, the giant Gene Kelly like dance numbers and musical numbers. I want that movie to be made. Like and I was gonna, if we had done movie news, I would have brought something up because I think we're gonna get it. Actually.
Really?
Yes. Maybe I'll talk about it. It's no hurry to talk about, but maybe the next time we talk movie news, I have a story to bring.
No, you can't leave us waiting that long.
Just think about Channing Tatum and Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing a musical dance movie.
See. I can think of no better
Take my money right
that.
now.
Yeah.
Take my money right now.
Oh, that's awesome. Hey, we've got a live comment from Felipe from Real Podcast. Yeah, so check out what he made for us, guys.
Nice.
So for those of you who are listening in digital tape delay and not watching on YouTube, first of all, you're missing most of the fun, and second,
that's awesome.
Felipe has done a nice design for a What Jim Said T-shirt. So
this needs a little modification, though. I think, especially if it's coming from Felipe, it can say what Jim said, but it needs an asterisk next to it, and then below it can says except about The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah. Like, we may need to bring that up at some point because Jim almost lost his movie privileges.
Oh my gosh! Right. Oh my gosh! Yeah, over the weekend we're in the car talking Star Wars, and Jim's like, by far, Empire is the worst of the original series.
I might have been off.
And I'm like,
or something.
I'm like, that's going on Facebook, Jim. Like, congratulations, bear down.
Facebook was not having any of that. Yeah, I read the comments.
I got in trouble for that one.
We can
get into it later. Let's get back to it.
All right. Well, Felipe, thank you for that design. Felipe's actually going to be on the show again with us next week, reviewing Deadpool. So we are super pumped to talk to Felipe, and he's got a new podcast coming out with his buddy Andrew, and we are super stoked to hear their first episode and have him talk to us a little bit about their show. So that's coming at you next week. But guys, are we ready for some spoilers?
I say we tap dance into the spoiler section.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What if I want to swim with an aerial fin into the spoiler pond? Is that cool?
Or you can, I don't know, Jim can ride the lazy moon to the spoiler section. I'm just trying to think of the musical numbers that appear in this movie. Yeah.
That old lazy moon.
That old lazy moon!
There might be no dames on this podcast, but dames are welcome to listen to this podcast.
We have dames sometimes, Jessica Cameron.
We've had dames. We've had dames.
We've had
tonight.
tonight. And listeners. We have female listeners, too.
That's right.
That's what I said. They're welcome to be, to listen to the podcast. We just don't have any on tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
No dames.
That's true. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're officially going to Spoiler Town, I guess.
Yeah.
Spoilers are fair game. If you have not yet seen this movie, this is your chance to bail for about 10 minutes and then come back for plugs. But, Jim, I get the psychic sense that you want to kick off spoilers.
I just wanted to bring up a couple of there were a lot of little sub-elements to this movie, kind of spin-off plot threads that just really didn't seem to go anywhere. And so this is one of those kind of movies that is ripe for somebody that's smarter than me, especially about Cohen movies, to write a think piece on, about what did all these little vignettes and stuff really meant and what they were trying to say and how they all tied together into the Cohen Brothers universe and all that stuff. And mark my words, that think piece is coming. I know it. I haven't seen it yet, but it'll come. But the ones that kind of stuck out in my mind are the whole Scarlett Johansson. While I love seeing Scarlett Johansson do her thing, I just didn't in this movie. Her story really just didn't really go anywhere for me. And a lot of the George Clooney stuff. I get the metaphor I think they were shooting for with writers being part of this communist pod that were being screwed over by the studios, so they formed their own thing. But the whole kidnapping, spending time with those guys, and of course Clooney plays the lovable lunkhead who's kind of open to be swayed by any kind of thinking. I don't know, that whole thing a lot of times just felt a little off to me. Didn't really land 100%. What about you guys? Are there any others?
Yeah, I get where they were going with this movie, and it comes back to their common theme. Like, if you go through every Coen Brothers movie, or probably most Coen Brothers movies, I'm probably missing one along the line, their big through line is the idea of morality. If you think back to A Serious Man, or Oh Brother, We're Out There, or Fargo, any of those things, morality is a big part of it. And this film is bookended, we're in spoiler section, with the idea of morality from a faith perspective. Josh Brolin is looking for faith. He's questioning faith. He's trying to figure out how he fits within that, while also working for a big studio that is very easily and very frequently displayed as being kind of heartless and with too much guile for its own good. Like, it makes a lot of decisions that make no sense because of financial reasons. And that's what drives the writers over into communism. There's a fun little play on words with even the studio itself is called Capital Studio.
Capital.
So, like, capitalism, communism.
Right.
Yeah.
You have the Scarlett Johansson storyline, which is all about, like, the studio is being very immoral with the way it handles everything. With, like, instead of just her saying, like, yeah, this is a person that has a child out of wedlock, they have to go through this crazy adoption thing. Now, so I got the through line. It's all about morality and it's all about faith. The problem for me is that not all of those were extremely well executed. Like, the Scarlett Johansson Jonah Hill storyline, I thought was an absolute waste of time on screen, despite being interesting scenes. Like, I think they're good actors and they did a good job with it, but it didn't contribute as much to the story as much as it did just kind of to the general mood that the studios are kind of crazy. Same thing with the Tilda Swinton stuff.
Yeah, that was a waste.
She's good, right? Like, it was. Yeah. I loved seeing her on screen. Like, honestly, Tilda Swinton is one of those people who I will fan cast in any movie that I cast in my brain. But I just didn't feel super enthused about the stuff that she had to work with here. So it's like I get where they're coming from. I understand their themes. I understand what they're going for. I just don't feel like they really landed the they stuck the landing on this one the way they do in other films.
And I want to touch on the Tilda Swinton stuff because, like, watching the trailer, I got to tell you, she was one of the only reasons I was excited about this film, because I'm like, oh, she's playing like the hardcore reporter who's like trying to suss out what's going on, and she's a little wacky, a little zany, but she's got kind of a hard edge to her, right? And I know my expectations are different than yours, maybe, Jim, but for me, I was like, okay, cool, I'm really looking forward to this character. And what we got here, I don't know, like her and her twin sister, and it was just too much zany and not enough of an edge for me, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Scarlett Johansson stuff, it was pretty evident from the get-go what they were trying to say there. It was about irony, right? It was about, yes, Will, and the morality, too, how the movie studio wants to present her as this, like, virginal mermaid of paradise, whatever, in their movies, and that's how the fans of those movies take her to be, yet she's this, hard-living, hard-smoking, mother out of wedlock thing that they have to kind of keep buried under the rug. So we get the irony there, but after that, there's really nothing to that storyline. There's not much there.
Yeah, she literally has 3 scenes in the movie. One where we present her problem, one where we present the solution, one where we go through with the solution, and then later on they just kind of mention, oh, by the way, this happened. It really felt like there's almost another storyline that was happening behind the scenes in this movie, and we didn't get a chance to see it. We got to see glimpses of another Cohen Brothers movie that didn't happen.
Yeah, I did love what an eye opener this guy Alden Ehrenreich is.
Yes.
I mean, this guy, I don't know if I've seen him in anything else before. He's got a face that's made for movies or TV. They presented him as such a likable character. Again, kind of naive, very naive, but a very likable character. And it's kind of a sweet storyline that I really liked in the movie. Provided a lot of the comic relief for the movie. The scene between him and Ralph Fiennes was pretty funny. I thought it went on maybe a couple of beats too long. I could hear people in my movie theater kind of groaning toward the end of that exchange, like, "Come on, move on already. We get it." But yeah, I mean, this guy's good. I'm gonna keep my eye out for him in other movies. I just love that whole singing cowboy, aw shucks, kind of charmer attitude that the character had.
Right. Yeah. I mean, his filmography is very much based on, like, he's been in a lot of things where he's supposed to be the pretty guy. Like he was in Beautiful Creatures. He's been in Supernatural. He had a role. I'm looking at his IMDb. I don't remember him in this. He was in Blue Jasmine. And I have.
Yep.
But I don't remember him in that. So, like, I feel like that's a good sign that I need to revisit Blue Jasmine.
That's a great movie to go rewatch if you have to go rewatch a movie.
She's. It looks like he was the stepson.
He was one of the. Okay.
And speaking real quick of revisiting things, Felipe sent an updated version of the shirt. There you go.
Yes. Okay, I would wear that. Yeah. Well, I would wear that for certain episodes. Yeah.
So let's review. We've got Will's bitch pants, we've got Brad's bitch harness, and we've got the What Jim Said T-shirt.
Right.
I think
we've got a full outfit, right?
I need to post that to Facebook.
You totally do.
Thanks, Felipe. I love it.
That's awesome. We could totally dress someone in MBP clothes at this point. Like we are like we're an outfitter. That's what we do.
MBP outfitters.
MBP outfitters. Yeah. Right. Oh, and also, Jim has a bitch cape, right? So we can throw that on as well.
Yeah.
There
we go. And we need to make some cool MBP socks. I'm just saying.
And I guess, honestly, we need to put our logo on a shot glass so someone can take a shot whenever we say trope.
That's a phenomenal idea. We can actually do that through Vistaprint.
Yeah.
Did we just come up with a new marketing idea mid-episode?
I think
shot glasses.
MBP shot glasses.
I'm the type of guy who sometimes, very rarely and occasionally enjoys an alcoholic beverage. So I would be okay with this idea.
I want a set for Christmas, except Christmas is just over, so I want them now. As Will guzzles his beer.
Guzzles, I'm out. I finished my cognac, I finished my beer, and I did not plan appropriately for this episode.
Oh my goodness, Will, we're gonna see you in like a month. We're gonna have to like have some, well, not beer because we hate beer, but we'll have some cognac with you.
Awesome. Well, we'll also get some like, I don't know. You like Mike's, right?
We'll get some cheerleader. We'll get some cheerleader beer.
Well, I will enjoy some cheerleader beer with you. I'm good with that.
Awesome. I'd say we'd have a fun night of just kicking a few back, but given that the only time we're at the house is to sleep, we're gonna have to drink during the movies. Will,
just add an extra day to your trip, and we'll have like a decompress day.
Oh, that's a sore subject. Don't go there.
Yeah, I know it's hard with work.
I messed up. Well, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah, no, the thing is with trips, we're getting off of Hail Caesar, but maybe that's a sign. But the thing is with trips like this, it's all about what you make of them. It's going to be all good.
Right. That's true.
Going back to Hail Caesar, I want to bring up. I'm going over my notes here because I feel like I'm missing one other thing there. Yeah, I want to bring up George Clooney. You had mentioned him before in the pre-section there, Brad. One of the things that I thought was so interesting about his role here was, and I think this is what George Clooney does extremely well, he played a not quite a 100% bright character in an extremely effective way. I think some people play characters like this as either brilliant or as idiots, and this character was neither. Like, this character was not really sharp, but he didn't feel like he was just completely awful at anything. Like, when it came time for him to do his stage acting stuff in screen, whenever they presented that, it was really good. Like, I really liked the way that he like kind of turned it on, and you could see why this guy was like one of the great actors of his day in this movie. I really like George Clooney here, and I'm probably less a fan. It's interesting. I'm less a fan of George Clooney than you are, Brad. I'm less a fan of Josh Brolin than you are, Jim. I feel like both were utilized extremely well here, and I think that's part of why I like the Cohen Brothers so much. I think they can take an actor who I'm on the fence with and definitely push them over into the very positive side.
Yeah, that reminds me. It brought up a couple of scenes with Josh Brolin. Early on in the movie, he slaps. Who does he slap? The female that he slaps.
One of the just a kind of a random like runaway actress.
Right.
Who's doing the?
Was that shocking to you to see?
It was.
It took me back a little bit. Like, oh my God, they're really going there in this movie. And it's interesting because Josh Brolin is a character I think we're supposed to kind of empathize with and kind of like, but to see him like take a woman and just kind of slap her around and humiliate her a little bit was really shocking to me. And the movie never really circled back to that I can remember. However, there was a bookend scene of him doing the same thing to George Clooney, which I kind of liked.
Yeah.
I loved the fact that Josh Brolin was giving George Clooney's character, kind of his comeuppance and kind of a recalibration to, hey, we pay you, we are the studio, we pay you, you're doing pretty damn good, shut the fuck up.
Right.
That was a really interesting through line for this movie because I think a lot of movies, I was watching A Serious Man earlier today because I was brushing up on like Cohen Brothers and just kind of getting in the Cohen Brothers headspace for this, and God, that was a good movie. But a lot of their movies that really do focus on morality are a little bit more gray area. Whereas this one, it was interesting. Like, I feel like this character actually feels comfortable with his decisions by the end of this movie. Like, a lot of movies are about people questioning things, and they're still questioning things. They don't really have those answers. Josh Brolin gets the answers he needs by the end of this movie, and that's interesting to me. I agree that the slapping up front was weird. Not as much because it was like violence against women. I think that's the easiest thing for us to say, like that's uncomfortable. Yeah. And it is uncomfortable. But I also feel like that character never really appears again in the movie. So it becomes a little bit more arbitrary. Like if we had seen more of that character and we had seen that scene pay off in some other way, I would have probably been okay with it more in the terms of the movie, in terms of like the timing, in terms of the dark comedy and all of that. But it really just felt like we just had to learn what this guy was, and so this is how we're going to learn it.
It's just interesting that he goes to his confession to confess his sins about sneaking cigarettes, but not to confess his sins that he's violent against women.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
it's kind of odd. Just an interesting aside, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
Did you guys like the Frances McDormand character in this? Because I did. She's one scene.
She was funny, but I thought it was kind of a weird throwaway scene.
It was
yeah, it was good, and I love Frances McDormand, and I love to see how, because I guess I was hearing or listening or reading about that a lot of the editors, for film editors, back in those days were women. And they did a lot of the film editing. And it was interesting to see how her mastery of the equipment, like when he came in the room, he's like, oh, give me a second, I'll slap some music on it, and you can see. And bing, 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 and she runs it through the projector. The slapsticky thing about the scarf in the projector, I don't know, it seemed a little tonally weird to me.
It seemed to undercut what I felt that scene was going for. That's why I was a little taken aback. Like, I'm like super impressed. I'm like, man, look what a whiz she is. Look how in control she is. And then she's getting choked by her own scarf, getting caught in the projector. I don't know. It was kind of weird for me, but I did like seeing her.
And that's where the think piece will probably explain what that was supposed to. Well, what that was supposed to get message it was supposed to get across.
As a scene, it was perfectly fine. In that, like, I liked it within, and that's just my same criticism of the entire movie. Like, every scene of this movie was great. I thought this scene was great by itself. Like, we got to see her mastery. We got to see kind of a comedic punchline. I think all of that was great. It falls apart when put in the full context of things because that punchline never pays off in any other way. I think when you look at it in the big picture of things, you cut that punchline out. You just see, like, the editing part of it. She plays an interesting character, and you move on. I feel like any single one of these scenes would have made like a really, really cool short movie. They just didn't work as well for me as a complete package.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Like the whole submarine thing, kind of at the end.
Yeah, the submarine thing was, if you think of it just in terms of itself, like, I was laughing all the way through it. It was really interesting.
It's kind of humorous, but it's like, what are they doing? Like, what is this?
That's the end of that's the end of one of our major characters' storylines, and in a bizarre way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
At least he kept the dog.
The whole George Washington pose, crossing the Delaware with the dog, and it was oddly funny. Not laugh out loud funny, just oddly funny, but then at the end you're scratching your head like, what the hell was that supposed to be?
Have you ever heard that phrase when someone says, oh, the script was half-baked? And it's used a lot. That's one of those like very cliche throwaway lines. I feel like this is probably a really good example of like a half-baked script. There's a lot of really good elements here. It just needed a little bit more just to pull it together, to tighten it up, to turn it into the movie that I think the Cohen Brothers wanted to make.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Indeed. Well, guys, how about we move on to some plugs? We feeling ready to plug?
Let's plug it up.
Some things. All right, cool. All right, so Will, what have you got this week?
I have a feeling I'm gonna throw one out on the table, and I'll be ready for you guys to piggyback on it because I think you guys saw this one as well. Earlier in the week, I had a chance to see 45 Years, which is a movie that was just opened in Austin. So it's only been about a week out now that I've seen it. Andrew Haigh is the director. We've got the star Charlotte Rampling, who's nominated for an Oscar, and Tom Courtenay. The two of them. I mean, while there's other people in this is pretty much a two-hander between these two, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a story about this couple. They're a married couple getting ready to celebrate their 45th wedding anniversary, and along the way they discover something from their past that really is going to interfere with that may make that 45-year anniversary a bit of a question mark instead of an exclamation mark. I really liked this movie quite a bit. I say this as someone who, preparing for the slings and arrows on this one, guys, I've not historically been a huge Andrew Haigh fan. I did not like Looking, and I thought Weekend was a movie that was good, but could have been great. I think this was the movie that Andrew Haigh really learned what he needed to do in those other properties to make this film. Like, everyone has been a stepping stone to get where we're at here. Charlotte Rampling is amazing here. She gets to play a very understated but continual growth in one particular emotional path. Tom Courtenay is just as good up against her because he's got a lot to carry, and he does it with very convincingly. And I'll say this. This film builds to a crescendo, and that crescendo is pitch perfect. Like, if I were to do a list of maybe my like top 10 or top 20 like last 2 minutes of a movie, this film might make that list. It's just, I think this film really knew what it was doing and got there in a competent way. So I strongly recommend going to see 45 Years. It's probably not for everyone. This is very much a slow burn. And I think from the previews, a lot of people are going to be expecting like some really crazy twists and turns, and it's not that type of movie. The stuff, everything is very subdued and very understated, but it's expertly done. It's beautifully done.
It's not M. Night Shyamalan.
No. The twists aren't going to be. Yeah. Oh my God! It was this all along. No, the stuff is kind of like I could see someone. I could totally see someone coming out of this and going, "Oh, that was the twist." But. If you're that type of person, maybe not for you. But honestly, it's so beautifully done, so brilliantly done. I really recommend this movie, and I was not expecting to recommend this as much as I did when I saw it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I was gonna plug this one, so if you guys don't mind, I'll just piggyback.
Do it.
On this.
Double plug it.
Yeah. Well, I will double plug this one. So yeah, I was kind of blown away by this movie. Just a really quiet but powerful movie. Will, you're right on the head. I know Charlotte Rampling is getting an Oscar nomination Best Actress for this. Some are even say she's the front runner or slam dunk to win.
No,
that remains to be seen.
She's fifth place for this. She's not winning, but no, she is not the front runner in this. She's not in the race. It was good that she was nominated.
All right.
All right. Let's see about that. But like you said, I agree that Tom Courtenay's performance was just as good. I really loved watching him in this. Another thing that I love the soundtrack in this movie. A lot of the songs they picked for this movie were perfectly placed. Made me smile every time they came on. So I love that. I don't know what else I can say about this movie, but this is a writer-director that I'm going to keep my eyes out for, Andrew Haigh. I did like Weekend a lot, not quite as much as this movie, but it was a great kind of premiere movie for him, or first feature movie for him. Looking was a series I didn't really like. He was only co-writer, co-director on that. I didn't really connect with that as much as maybe some other people did, but I know that a lot of our listeners watched it. Both of those, by the way, are on Amazon Instant, so if you want to really get a head start on this director and you haven't seen him, I would go out and see him. But yeah, see 45 Years. It's one of the films that's getting talked about because of Charlotte Rampling's performance. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I don't know if this might have cracked my top 10. If I had seen it last year, it might have been close.
Oh, yeah, that's fun. Like, I don't know if this cracks my top 10, but it's in my top 20.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely something that we would have to, like, this does make me rethink my list.
And it's one of those movies like Brad and I saw that's together, and the whole way home we were talking about the movie and some of the themes in the movie and the characters and how they were affected. It's one of those movies where people in relationships, I think it's good for them to see this movie and kind of talk about what the characters were feeling. And I thought the writing and acting brought that out very well. And you're right, Will, especially that last scene you're talking about, oh, what does that mean? What was she feeling? What was going on there? I'm not going to spoil anything, but that last scene was kind of a stunner, you know what I mean? So
right.
In a subtle way, but still a stunner. I enjoyed it a lot.
And as for me, I saw this movie as well, but I'm just going to say what Jim said.
And Will in this case.
Yeah, this is what Will says. Yeah.
Oh, well. In particular, the music, it reignited my love affair with Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. I love that song so much.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal soundtrack. But I'm going to use my plug time to talk about something else. I could go on and on about 45 years, but it's great. I mentioned Real Comics Podcast. We'll have Felipe next week to tell us more about that. But do you know, those of you out there in listener land, that we have a YouTube channel with like 100 and, I don't know, 67 something videos of us talking movies? You may listen to us week by week through iTunes or Stitcher, and that's great. We love that. But we have so much great video content on our YouTube channel that you're missing out on. And as we go into South by Southwest here in a few weeks, we're going to be doing maybe some exclusive video reviews of some of the films that are coming out that you might want to be aware of. So definitely encourage you to go to youtube.com/moviebearspodcast, hit that big subscribe button. Or if you want to go check out this episode, if you click on the video, you'll see a little pop-up that you can click on to subscribe. But we'll have some cool stuff coming your way from South by. Hello, My Name is Doris is coming out in a few weeks or something, right? That was a movie we saw last year at South by. So some of you folks are like, oh my God, I remember when you talked about this movie coming out. Can't wait to see it. Subscribe. It's good stuff. And do the same thing in iTunes, if you depend on our Facebook posts. I know I'm like totally promoting the Movie Bears podcast right now. But,
that's good. That's what we're doing. Plugging, right?
Those subscriptions help us to continue to bring you quality content, and they up our clout so we can get really awesome guests onto the show for your pleasure. So whether it's YouTube or iTunes or Stitcher or however you digest the show, be sure to subscribe. And I think that kind of wraps us up for this week. Thanks again to Carl Sandler from Daddyhunt.com for joining us to talk about their web series, Daddyhunt the Serial. Thank you to all of you who were watching live, Felipe, for your comments, and those of you listening on digital tape delay. We heart you guys, and I gotta say, guys, we're approaching the 3,000 like mark on Facebook.
Ooh.
Another milestone. We're getting there. We're at like 2888 or something. So
hey, if you're listening and haven't liked us on social media yet, like, why don't you be our 3,000th like, or our
there you go.
step ladder to that? Come like us. We post things that aren't just the episode there. So.
And who knows? There might even be a T-shirt or a Fandango gift card for the lucky 3,000th liker.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Just putting that out there. Anyway, have a great week, everyone. I don't know what we're talking about next week, but we'll figure it out.
We have it on the schedule.
Is it Deadpool?
Oh, it's Deadpool. Yeah, we're doing Deadpool.
Yeah.
I'm totally kidding.
Okay.
You wrested away the thunderous swing arm of my joke, but that's okay.
It
Like
could
the
be
joke-
anything,
like the
but it'll
joke
probably be Ryan Reynolds, decapitating people.
Yeah. Like the joke you laid on me earlier this week that our show was pulled from iTunes for explicit content.
Wait, what?
Oh my
I
God.
missed
Oh,
this.
yeah. Scared the crap out of me.
Tell him about it, Jim. Go for it.
Oh, no, he's just like, it was just random, like out of the blue. I'm like, hey, how you doing, babe? He's like, oh, great, except I got some bad news. I'm like, what? He says, oh, MBP was just pulled off of iTunes for explicit content. I'm like, what? He's like, just kidding.
What can I say?
Well, I mean, to be fair, this is a behind-the-scenes thing, too, because we're here. There's been times where I think both of you have done this, where it's like, oh, guys, the episode from last night didn't record. Just kidding.
Yeah.
You know what, though? I was on a podcast one time where that actually happened for real. It was pre my Movie Bears podcast day. Totally didn't record. So we spent like 2 hours, and
we have friends who do another podcast. Love you, Adrian, and Green Screen of Death podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Adrian and Bill.
yeah.
Not only did it happen to them once, it happened to them twice, and they on the same show. They had to re-record for a third time to get it.
Yeah,
that really sucks.
By the time they got to their rant segment,
Those poor guys.
they were so ready to go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely
And
a
it can happen.
hardship.
It can
It
happen.
can't. Technology is weird. Like, for all we know, we've said the magic words and this one isn't recording.
I'm knocking on some wood right now, so hopefully that won't happen.
Is that what you're doing?
Is that what you call it?
I'm looking
Knocking
at
on some wood?
I'm looking at Daddyhunt.com while knocking on some wood.
Oh my god!
All right,
I
everybody.
think that's our that's
our
where we're at,
cue.
yeah.
That's all right. We got a meatloaf in the oven, so we gotta go. That's not a euphemism. That's
Actual, like, you guys are about to eat some delicious food. Yeah.
We are. All right, everyone. Here's my Channing Tatum Sailor sign off. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.